Alright, welcome back. We have had all the boring stuff now, so let's go create a database. Here you see the create new database field in phpMyAdmin, which is the tool I was talking about. And we'll create a database and I'm going to call it PHP Academy. You can call it whatever you want. So here you are going to want to create some tables. For now we're just going to create one and we'll call it posts, or I'll call it posts. Again, call it whatever you want. And we'll give it 3 fields. Now, first field, we're going to make this an ID. This will identify each entry into this table because ID stands for identity or identifier. Whatever. This is a number, so we're going to make it an integer. However, remember I said integers can have up to 11 characters, so you could have a value like that. But I doubt you'll get like 43 billion posts or something, so just 7 or maybe 8 is generally enough, and even that is a lot. Note that if you do set it to 8, you could also use medium int, which automatically sets this to 8. But we'll just stick to int because that is one of the basic data types I mentioned in the previous video. Now here you see the index flag, and you're going to want to set this to primary. I talked about primary keys in the previous video as well. Now what's probably just as important is this auto increment flag. You'll want to check this box for the ID field. Basically what this does is it automatically increases the ID by 1 whenever a new entry is inserted into this table. So the first entry will have an ID of 1, the second one will have an ID of 2, and so on and so forth. So basically you won't need to generate this ID dynamically yourself. It is already done for you. So that's very useful. Now, second field, title. We're going to make this a varchar field, and by default it can have at most 255 characters, and that's just fine for us really. But if you want, you could set it to like 128. Depends on what you want, but titles can get pretty long, so I'll just go with 255. I suppose you could make this a unique index, but titles do end up get duplicated from time to time, so we'll just leave it as normal. And the last field is the post itself, or let's call it contents. And this will be a text field. Now if you really want a lot of text, you could also use, let's see here, long text or even medium text, but that's for posts where you want over 65,000 characters, and that's a lot, so we'll just stick with text. Good. So hit save, and there's our table. With that done, we can start coding. We're going to create a very simple system here where users can add posts to this database. So let's do this. Just going to open up my editor, and here you see a config.php file inside this resources directory. Oh, by the way, note this .htx file with deny from all. This means that users cannot directly access any of the files in this resources directory, which is very useful for files like a configuration file and an initialization file. Cannot really pronounce that, so I'll just call it an init file. Anyway, here in config.php, what's really important here is this, and this. Basically, this DB host is the server name or IP address. Generally for you this will be localhost. The user is the username you use to access it. When you initially install it with like XAMPP or something, this will be root, but you can add users yourself. And the default password for the root user will be nothing or root, that depends. Again, you can set this yourself. And the name of the database, well, it's obviously the name you just chose for your database. And, well, this seems a bit like gibberish, I suppose, but arrays are easier to edit than immediate constant definitions like this. Here you just need to edit this value, and here you need to go inside the function call, blah blah blah. So you can just copy this and not even care how it works, but basically we can now access the localhost with this. Alright, so init.php includes this config file and connects to the database. So here we do our first PHP work with MySQL. MySQL work with PHP, my bad. MySQL Connect does exactly what you would expect it to do, and that's connect to the MySQL server. You need to pass it 3 parameters: the host or the server IP address or name, which in our case is localhost, the username with which you log into it or access it, and the password associated with it. Finally, you'll need to select the database, and you just need to pass it the database name. Alright, so here on insert.php, this is not in the resources directory, I set up this simple form with a title, a post, and a submit field. And I added this, which basically just checks if the form was submitted correctly. So let's go to, oh wow, I forgot to enter it already. PHP Academy, let's see, tutorials, MySQL, insert.php. Sorry about that. So here you see our form, and well, you can just put stuff here and it just submits back to this page. It doesn't do anything yet though. Anyway, with the basic setup done now, we can start working with MySQL. The way you use SQL code, SQL code, structured query language, as I mentioned, is with the MySQL query function. In between these quotes, you would use SQL code. We're not going to do that just yet. I'm going to show you how to use SQL code in this syntax file. Alright, so here I have some SQL code written for you, and I'm going to explain what this all means in the next part. So once again, see you there.